My name is Joaquin Thompson, Sr. Like millions of Americans, I struggled financially for many years because I was never taught the basics of personal finance. Today, I'm a financial literacy expert, author, and speaker that teaches students and adults the basic components of financial literacy. My goal is to educate, motivate, and elevate people to master the basics of personal finance. I show students and adults how to go from struggling to creating a secure financial future for generations to come. Welcome to the Daily Bread with Joaquin Thompson, Sr. So Saidah, welcome to the Daily Bread.
Thank you for having me.
How you been since we last spoke?
I've been great. I've been great. I just got back from New Orleans filming an episode of Queen Sugar.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a great experience. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm feeling good.
So things are still just unfolding for you.
Yes. Yeah. Especially because it's for acting, so and it's like new territory, but it's opening up and I'm excited about that.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
So share with us, who's Syeda Nairobi? Tell us, your background, how'd you get into where you are now, just your dreams, your aspirations. Can you share that with us?
Yes, so my name is Syeda Nairobi. I'm originally from Queens, New York. Been in Atlanta over 25 years. My family and I moved down here when I was a little girl. And I've had a long journey, a very unorthodox journey, just following my heart, following my passion. I went to performing arts high school. I've always loved the arts, dance, music, acting, theater, anything artistically driven. I love it. And I went to Bennett College for Women after I graduated high school, studied elementary education, and then had a change of heart and realized I wanted to pursue a career in entertainment and started auditioning for singing groups and auditioning for dance jobs as a professional dancer. And my dance career took off, and I've since that journey, I've become a singer, an actor, a mom, a wife, motivational speaker. So it's a lot of different hats I'm wearing, and there's still more work to be done.
Wow, wow, wow. So
Yeah.
You know what I always say, you always leave out the best part, which is world renowned, right? So you're always being very humble.
Yeah.
So can you share with the audience just a little, because you mentioned, I started off dancing, then I was fortunate, then I became, but not so much to just name drop, but I think it's important for people to understand the magnitude of the work that you put in and the level of excellence that you've been able to achieve. So can you share with us the type of artists that you've been fortunate enough to work with?
Yes, so I've toured with Ciara, Usher, Neo, and Beyonce. Those been my four people I've worked with throughout my 11-year dance career.
Wow, 11 years.
Yeah.
So you're a veteran then?
Now I'm being called a vet. Yeah,
so
I remember when I was a newbie, but yeah.
So did they call you newbie then, or rookie?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was it was the green one, especially out of Atlanta. I had my career start in Atlanta, and back then, LA, had a reputation for the professional dancers. Like that was the elite dancers, and New York as well. And Atlanta wasn't really taking it seriously back in that time. So it was rare to have an Atlanta-based dancer on a job. So I was always kind of looked at like, who is she? Kind of thing. Like, who are you? And, it just, God has been good. And my career has just been going and flowing. And, I've gotten to tour the world with some really incredible people.
Wow,
and it's awesome, that I got to tour with Beyonce twice. That was because I worked with her. My first time working with her was in 2009, and then 7 years later, I came back around and toured with her for Formation Tour. So, you just never know.
Wow, so, just to say I'm on tour with Beyonce, that has to be just an incredible feeling.
So incredible.
And an incredible experience. So I know you've shared some of that in your book. Can you share with us about the title of your book? And what's the book about?
Yes, so I wrote a book called Leap of Faith, The Journey of a Dream. And I wanted to write it to inspire, young girls, women, people just that may be seeking the courage to pursue a career in the entertainment industry. And, I wanted to just share my journey and hopefully just inspire and empower people to take a leap of faith in their own lives. And so the book journeys me coming out of high school, going to college, making that turning point decision to, just leave school and go full throttle with pursuing my, professional endeavors in the entertainment industry, and then how I was working a corporate job, left that job to pursue, a career full time, and things just started opening up. So I talk about the audition process for Beyonce, the first artist that I professionally toured with, which was The Dream, singer-songwriter, and then my dream of working with Ciara. That was always the one artist that I always wanted to work with, and because she was from Atlanta, and she had that grit, and I always loved how she was a woman, and she was, feminine and sensual, but she was still gritty, so she had that, like, that down,
That go hard.
yeah, around the way girl vibe, but still had a classiness about her, and I connected with it and wanted to work with her and her choreographer, and she's been my longest artist that I've worked with. I've worked with her off and on for the past 11 years, and so it's been crazy to like have that dream come true, and then in the midst of that, tour with Beyonce, tour with Usher, and tour with Neo, and just make great relationships with people.
Well, I ordered my copy of the book, and I want to thank you for the signed copy as well.
Yes, you're
welcome.
welcome.
One of my favorite parts of the book is really the introduction.
Yeah.
And that first scripture. So share with us about this particular scripture, write the vision, and make it plain.
Yeah. I started off the book with that particular scripture. One, to emphasize that, my journey, especially I call it leap of faith, my journey wasn't mine alone. God was everything with my journey, because I had no clue what was the path before me. I just went with what my spirit felt like I needed to go this path. And I wrote down, I was very much into like law of attraction at this time, and writing, like creating a vision board, and just like creating affirmations for myself to just fuel my spirit and my energy. Like, I am elevated, I am successful, I am booked and blessed, money flows easily and frequently, just really charging myself up, and then just visualizing like traveling, singing, dancing, acting, just whatever,
wow.
Dreams I had, and I just put it up, and I wrote it down because I've always loved writing, so I had to write down, my goals and my vision, and so I wanted to open the book with that, because that was very instrumental, I believe, in the journey that I've had, in my life, and it does take a leap of faith. It takes like you just surrendering to God and just saying, you know what, I'm trusting you, with this vision that you placed on my heart, and, take it from here, and, faith without works is dead. So you have to put in the work, so I really do emphasize that in the book. It wasn't like overnight success. Like I just ended up on stage with Beyonce. There was a journey that led to the process.
Right.
And I talk about that. You have to respect the process, respect the journey. Like a lot of times, especially in today's society, everything is instant gratification. We want it now, but things take time, and so it's like I believe slow and steady wins the race, and you got to focus on your race, and but you got to take a leap.
And I think it's definitely entitled, it's an appropriate title for your story, because just like you said, you just wake up one day, you're not just going to wake up and be on an elite stage, because when you say Beyonce and Ciara, we all know it takes an enormous amount of time that goes into being able to put yourself in a position to even compete at that level. Because like you saying, hey, I'm the new girl, I'm from Atlanta, you all are from LA, you're from New York, and you want to make sure that you stay in. So I really want to dig deeper into the book and then learn more about your story as well. But then the bigger point is, we're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about your philosophy about personal finance, and just some of the things that you've learned in being in close proximity to people who have wealth, like a Beyonce or a Jay-Z or a Ciara or the other artists that you work with. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back to you all. So you all stay tuned to The Daily Bread with Joaquin Thompson.
No, I do not think backup dancers have financial literacy. Reason being is a lot of those people get paid in cash, maybe under the tables, and at the end of the year when it's tax time, I don't think a lot of them understand that you have to actually pay taxes on that money, so that could put them in a financial situation.
Do you think financial literacy is important to them?
Absolutely.
Okay, can you elaborate and share why that would be important to an entertainer?
First, let me say this. I think it's important to the lowest person on the totem pole.
Oh, definitely.
And work your way up. For them in particular, because they're going to come into probably more money than average. And that career, uncertain. You're here today, gone tomorrow. So you better control them finances in the right manner.
For example, they may get paid every other show, every show once a month, whatever the case may be. So they have to make sure they have whatever. If the money's consistent, they have to make sure they have enough money to take care of the taxes at the end of the year based on what they're getting paid, compared to it already coming out of their check, how when most people will get their checks.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm the host, Joaquin Thompson Sr., and it's our special pleasure to have Syeda Nairobi with us today. And when we left off, we were talking about your leap of faith, where you went, how you got to that point in time, and all of the work that you put into it, being a performer on stage, being an actor, and we know about your song, and being a mom. So really what we want to talk about now is, tell us about your philosophy or your vantage point about how personal finance plays a role in your professional life.
That's a great question. You know, it's crazy. I recently became a mother, my firstborn, last year, and it has completely shifted my world in so many ways. I'm gonna try not to cry, but it's just it's beautiful becoming a mom. And one of the things that's really impacted me more recently is finance, because in the entertainment industry we live in the moments. You know, it's all about being present, and you know, the magic of the moment happens in the moment. But that don't apply for finances. You know, that works for being creative.
Right.
But with finances, I've come to understand that you have to think future. You know, you have to think long term. You have to think about later, you know, not now. It's not all about now. And so it's crazy because that was an element of my life that was lacking as far as having a vision, having a plan. You know, financially, it was just an expectancy, like, you know, like trusting, you know, that was one of my affirmations. Money comes easily and frequently. So, you know, it's flowing. But what are we doing? What am I doing with my finances as it's flowing? Am I being a consumer, or am I being an accumulator of wealth? And so since I've had my daughter, it's really shifted my priorities with my finances, because my husband and I, you know, we thankfully, you know, being a self-employed household, outside of the work that we do for film and television productions, it's, you know, for us to sustain and own a home is really huge in our, you know, being a young couple and being parents and everything. But it takes discipline to really sit down and like create a budget, because everything, our lifestyle is so fast-paced. Everything's about, oh, we got to take this Uber, we got to buy this food, you know, you hanging out, you're having the dinners, you know, the socializing, you're traveling. Sometimes it's last-minute things. Oh, I want to upgrade my seat because it's a long flight and I don't want to be sitting in coach, so I'm gonna pay so I can sit in business class. How much is it? All right, it's worth it. You know, kind of just little things start to add up, you know. And if you don't have a plan in place and a budget in place, things can kind of just get out of control, and then you're just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna just wait for the next check, you know, and I'll take care of this, da-da-da-da. But now with my daughter, I realize, what am I leaving for her? What am I leaving for our children, you know? And that impacts me. And I realize, even though I don't come from, you know, having a lot of financial knowledge with budgeting and planning and investing and all that kind of stuff, there's wealth of books, wealth of YouTube videos, wealth of information out there to educate yourself. And that's my philosophy now, is like educating myself about being an accumulator of wealth and not being a high consumer, you know, because a lot of times, you know, a big misconception with entertainment industry is that, oh, she's told Beyonce she got money. she got the money. You know, we're the worker bees, you know what I'm saying? So we're not getting, you know, our income isn't on the same bracket as Beyonce and Jay-Z, you know what I mean?
Right.
You know, we're right there with her on camera, but we're not right there with her on our finance books, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it doesn't matter whether you're on stage with, you know, high, you know, artists, or if you are working a 9 to 5 and you're getting a steady check. It's all about what your vision is for your family and for your future, and how you budget and plan. And that's just been my thing lately, especially with me mentoring young girls in the industry. It's not just about, oh, you booked a tour, yay, congratulations. So make sure you pack your bag like this. Make sure you have, you know, these things in place. Make sure your work ethic is on point, you know, Now I'm like, you know, I don't know what your finance journey is, but save.
Whoa.
Save,
Whoa.
invest, you know, like it's the conversation has switched, because now that I'm a mom, my consciousness has switched with that. You know, it's not, you know, like, oh yeah, money comes easily and frequently. That's great, but you still got to be in control of what you're doing once the money comes in.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
Definitely.
yeah,
Because
and
being able to put yourself in a position to save, especially
Right.
when you're working in like you said, a self-employment type of position. So even though you're like, have the affirmations and things are going to happen, but at the same time, you have to be disciplined
Yes.
enough to have a plan. So that way, as money is coming into you, you're putting away a certain amount for
Exactly.
savings. You're able to invest a certain amount,
Right.
because rainy days are going to come.
Exactly.
Rainy days come to everyone.
everyone.
Right? So that's something that
Ain't no
I
joke.
really encourage everyone to make sure that they're taking heed to and listening to your story. And once you get beyond, like you said, being on stage with Beyonce is one thing,
Right.
but being in a different bracket,
Yeah.
a different financial bracket, so that way you don't get sidetracked thinking like, hey, I got
Exactly.
Beyonce money, or I'm gonna have this, or I'm gonna be on the next tour, but you
Right.
never know when
You
the next
never
tour
know.
is going to be.
Exactly. And that's the key, is like saving up for the slow seasons, because our industry is it's a yo-yo. You don't know when it's going to peak, when it's going to be slow. You can kind of guess. The winter times are usually a little slower than most. Is holiday time, you know. The books are settling, everybody's regrouping and stuff. But it's, you know, a lot of times I believe a lot of dancers, we get caught up when you're on tour. You know, you have steady income for a year, for, you know, a year and a half or whatever. And so now for me, it's important for me to educate dancers to prioritize, like, you want to save your money so that after this tour is over, if there isn't anything coming in for the next year, you have your savings, you have enough in your bank, you know what I'm saying, like in your account,
Right.
to be prepared for those rainy days, be prepared for those just in cases. Because I have heard a lot of stories of a lot of dancers, you know, the struggle is real.
Right.
The struggle is real. And, you know, I might have just seen them on set, you know what I'm saying, like filming for a show. And then a couple of months later, it's like, you know, it's hard, you know what I'm saying, they're bouncing house to house, or, you know what I'm saying, like their car is gone, or, you know, things start dwindling, because we don't think about the future. Everything is about now, and
Right.
we don't think like later. We got to make sure we're good for later. And I think that concept has really hit me more recently, because I've slowed down more, you know, being a mom. I decided I wanted to stay at home. So had I not saved to be able to not work for the first 6 months, you know, after I had my daughter, the struggle would have been really, 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 really real. And it still was hard for me, because I didn't have as much as I could have had, you know, saved up for that season. But thankfully, my husband, you know, we're a partnership, so we're able to work together. But now it's like, it's not just about getting by for a year or 2 years or 3 years. It's about getting by for the next 30 years, the next 50 years, you know, and
Right.
leaving something for our children, so that whatever their goals are for their future, they got something in the storehouse, you know, because
Right.
it's, you know, I think now, like, what would things have looked like if I was 18 and my mom, you know, was like, hey, I got, you know, your tuition, boom, you can go through school, or this is your startup money for whatever this is, you know what I'm saying? Like, it can, if the knowledge is there to know how to handle it, that could really, you know, set up a platform for someone to really excel and succeed. And so
Right.
now as a mom, I'm like, I want to do that for my kids.
And
I
you
want to
brought
have
up a
something
good
set
point,
up, you
a
know?
very good point, which is when we start to really think of about generational
Yeah.
wealth? Because people throw that word around a lot, like, hey, we need to be focused on generational wealth. But
Yeah.
generational wealth really starts the day you start to have a child.
Yeah.
So once you have a child, and I've been old enough and fortunate enough to see my kids go from being small infants
Yeah.
to being young adults.
Yeah.
And that's a generation. So you being able to put yourself in position so that way they don't start off at the same position, and like you just mentioned, at 18,
Yeah.
the same options, like, okay, what are you going to do,
Yeah.
as opposed to some additional options.
Yeah.
And another question that I had for you is, because you've been in that industry and because you've been in close proximity to, say, a Sierra, a Usher, Jay-Z, what type of wealth principles have you picked up from seeing the way that they manage different things, either from a business standpoint, from an investment standpoint? What are some of the things that you've learned?
I really had, my observations have been more on the professional aspect of things. I haven't been able to have those conversations to be able to see how they're, how they handle their finances.
Right.
I just know from seeing, Beyonce and her production, that there has to be a level of order to be able to run the type of production that she runs, and what I've seen in Beyonce and Sierra is their independence over the years. Beyonce started off with Columbia Records, and then she signed with Music World, her father's label, and then she decided to just create her own label, Parkwood Entertainment, and just put matters in her own hands, and that was a power move that really just worked in her favor because it gave her the control to do what she wanted creatively, and she didn't have to answer to the powers that be, under label structures. And Sierra did the same thing. She started off, I believe, with Jive Records or somewhere in there. I know she was with Jazzy Faye, and then I know she was with Epic Records, and then she was signed to Warner Brothers, and then she decided to create Beauty Marks Entertainment recently, which is her own label for her to just be able to independently release her own music. And those are those boss moves that I'm really inspired by, where it's just like the self-efficiency, do it yourself. Don't wait for somebody to give you the answer. That was how I felt about my book. I initially looked like, oh, I need to get a publishing, deal. Then I, shot for one, got one, and I created stipulations, sent it back, and then it was like, no, we don't like those stipulations. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm just gonna publish the book myself. Why not?
Right.
All it takes is just studying and doing the research and figuring out how I can make those steps happen, and I did, And so now I have all, creative control as far as with my book. I don't have to, if I want to turn it into a film, I don't have to answer to somebody to do that, or give up creative control over making this, a screenplay, or, what I'm saying? Now I can do that.
The thing about this is now you have product, right? So a lot of times people think about product in different ways, but I'm like, you can take a book, and if you own the rights, then you can grow into, like you mentioned, you can grow into a movie, you can make some type of curriculum out of it, you can create a workbook, you're already working with young dancers. So you just have a lot more autonomy than when you go through the big publishing deals. It really restricts you. So depending on what type of product you're creating, be it music, be it books, be it movies, just being able to have the ownership control really puts you into a very powerful position to grow it. Because what I see a lot of times when people don't have that type of autonomy, then what happens is they start to create things that make a lot of other people very wealthy, and then they get a percentage of that, all of that hard work. So when I looked at it and I looked at the formula, I was like, if you got to do this model, because you still got to do all of the marketing, you still got to be the face of it, you still have to promote it, you still have to do all these things. So I'm like, why am I going to be sharing a large percentage of what I created with somebody else?
Exactly.
So that in itself is a leap of faith.
Exactly.
Right?
It really is.
So, I mean, that's something is just super powerful if you're able to put yourself and really just bet on yourself.
Right.
Right? Because that's really what I start looking at is like, if you're going to invest in something, how much would it take, or how much would you invest in yourself?
Right.
Like, how much would you bet on yourself? So I always think you're going to always have good outcomes when that comes around and things like that happen. And then thinking about your daughter, you brought up some very key points, and looking at legacy and thinking long term. So as we do different things, I'm really, really happy in speaking with you again to talk about your emphasis on savings,
Yes.
because savings is really the seed,
Yes.
what I call the seed capital,
Yeah.
that opens up everything else.
Yeah.
So you may want to do another venture, you may want to get into some other things, but if you don't have
Exactly.
seed capital, then it really just kind of limits what you can and cannot
Exactly.
do. So I know a lot of people are going to be interested in picking up the book, Leap of
Yes.
Faith by Syeda Nairobi. It's an excellent book. Now I have 2 copies, so you need to make sure that you go out and get a copy. And where can people reach you?
Yeah, so I can be reached on my website, SaidaNairobi.com. I'm on Instagram, Syeda Nairobi. I'm on Facebook, Syeda Nairobi 1. And also Leap of Faith. I have a Facebook page for the book. And where else? I'm on IMDb for acting. I'm on Actors Access. But I have all the channels on my website. So you can just go directly, my link to purchase a copy of Leap of Faith, my link to YouTube to listen to We Are, to listen to it on Spotify. It's all there. Yes.
Well, Saidah, I want to definitely thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
sharing with
having me.
us. No, because I mean, every time we talk about being world renowned, I know a lot of times you want to be real humble with it, but I really applaud your excellence.
Thank
I
you.
applaud your drive and your vision, especially as a young person, the vision to really take that leap of faith and say, I know what people may be saying, I know about the naysayers, but I'm going to follow and trust in God.
Right.
And move it in a direction that I feel that my heart should move into. So I definitely appreciate you taking time to come on the show today.
Thank you.
And if you don't have a copy, make sure that you go out to Amazon, pick up your copy today. We want to, again, thank Saidah for coming on to the show.
Thank you.
Stay tuned to the Daily Bread with Joaquin Thompson. And always remember that the 3 key points for our show is to do what? Educate, motivate, and elevate. So stay tuned for upcoming episodes because we're going to continue to dig deeper into personal finance. You all have a great week, and I'll see you next week.
So you financially cool. If not, here's what to do. I promise you won't be misled if you just tune in to the Daily Bread. Daily Bread, Daily Bread. You have all the tools you need to help you to succeed. Just take heed. Listen to Joaquin. The boy graduated from college, dropping so much knowledge. This is what we do, and we are here to educate, motivate, elevate. Educate, motivate, elevate. Educate, motivate, elevate. Educate, motivate, elevate. You can elevate your life. Educate, motivate, elevate. Yeah. Educate, motivate, elevate. Educate, motivate, elevate. You can elevate your life.